The story begins with Jack Lawson driving his rig through the vast, open landscape of Wyoming. It's late afternoon, and the sun is beginning to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the rolling plains and jagged mountains. The road is deserted, with only the occasional gust of wind rustling the tall grass and the distant cry of a bird breaking the silence. Jack is on his final delivery, hauling a load of equipment to a remote ranch nestled deep in the Wyoming wilderness. The road is narrow and rough, winding through dense forests and open meadows, and as the miles pass, Jack feels a growing sense of unease. There's something about the landscape that feels oppressive, as if the land itself is watching him. As he approaches the ranch, Jack notices the dilapidated state of the property. The main house is large and imposing, with peeling paint, broken windows, and an air of neglect. Several outbuildings are scattered around the property, their roofs sagging and their walls covered in ivy and moss. The entire place feels abandoned, yet there's a strange energy in the air, a sense that something unseen is lurking just out of sight. Jack parks the truck near the main house and steps out, the cold wind biting at his skin. The silence is heavy, almost suffocating, and the air carries a faint, metallic scent that makes his stomach churn. He walks up to the house and knocks on the door, but there's no answer. After waiting a few moments, Jack decides to start unloading the cargo himself, hoping the ranch owner will appear soon. As Jack begins to unload the equipment, strange things start happening. The wind picks up, howling through the trees and causing the old buildings to creak and groan. The shadows lengthen, seeming to move of their own accord, and Jack catches glimpses of movement out of the corner of his eye. Shapes that vanish as soon as he turns to look. The air grows colder, and the light fades quickly, plunging the ranch into an early twilight. Jack tries to shake off the feeling of unease, focusing on the task at hand, but the atmosphere becomes increasingly oppressive. The silence is broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant sound of something heavy moving through the brush. As he works, Jack notices strange symbols carved into the wooden walls of the outbuildings, ancient runes and sigils that he doesn't recognize. The symbols seem to pulse with a dark energy, and Jack feels a chill run down his spine as he realizes they're not just decorations, they're warnings. The ranch feels alive with a malevolent presence, the shadows growing darker and more pronounced as the night sets in. Jack's flashlight flickers and dims, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. The wind carries faint, indistinct whispers, and Jack can't shake the feeling that he's being watched. When he returns to the truck to grab another load, he finds the door ajar, though he's certain he closed it. Inside, the cab is freezing, the temperature far lower than it should be. The radio, which was off, crackles to life, playing distorted fragments of old country songs and garbled voices that sound like they're coming from another time. Jack tries to start the engine, but it refuses to turn over, leaving him stranded. The feeling of being trapped sets in, and Jack's mind races as he tries to figure out what's going on. The ranch seems to have a mind of its own, and whatever force is at work here doesn't want him to leave. As the night deepens, the supernatural activity intensifies. Jack hears footsteps echoing from within the main house, heavy and deliberate. But when he investigates, the rooms are empty, filled only with dust and decay. The house itself seems to shift and change, the walls warping and the floorboards creaking as if the building is alive. In the distance, Jack sees figures moving in the shadows, ghostly apparitions of the ranch's past inhabitants, their faces twisted in pain and fear. They appear and disappear without warning, their hollow eyes staring through him as if he's not even there. The temperature continues to drop and the air grows thick with the scent of blood and earth. Jack realizes that the ranch is cursed, the result of some long-forgotten atrocity that has left a stain on the land. The malevolent forces at work are trying to trap him, to claim him as part of their endless cycle of torment. Desperate and terrified, Jack knows he must find a way to break the curse before it's too late. He searches the house and outbuildings, looking for anything that might give him a clue to the curse's origin. In the basement of the main house, he discovers an old journal hidden behind a loose brick in the wall. The pages are yellowed and brittle, filled with handwritten accounts of the ranch's dark history, a history of violence, betrayal, and dark rituals meant to appease ancient spirits. The journal speaks of a blood pact made by the ranch's original owner, a deal with dark forces to ensure wealth and prosperity. But the pact came at a terrible cost. The souls of all who lived on the ranch trapped in an eternal cycle of suffering. The only way to break the curse is to find and destroy the object that binds the spirits to the land, a talisman hidden somewhere on the property. Armed with this knowledge, Jack sets out to find the talisman, guided by the ghostly figures who seem to want to help him. They lead him to an old barn at the far end of the property, its doors hanging off their hinges and the roof half collapsed. Inside, the barn is filled with the remnants of the past, rusted tools, broken furniture, and the skeletal remains of animals that were sacrificed in dark rituals. In the center of the barn, buried beneath a mound of dirt and debris, Jack finds the talisman, a small, intricately carved stone covered in ancient symbols that match those on the buildings. As he picks it up, the air around him grows colder, and the shadows close in, the malevolent force trying to stop him from destroying the object. With the talisman in hand, Jack knows he has to act quickly. He smashes the stone against a nearby rock, shattering it into pieces. The effect is immediate. The air around him explodes with energy, and the ground shakes as the dark force is released. The shadows retreat, and the ghostly figures fade away, their tortured souls finally freed from the curse. The oppressive atmosphere lifts, and the ranch returns to an eerie silence. The wind dies down, and the temperature slowly rises as the night begins to fade into dawn. Exhausted but relieved, Jack makes his way back to the truck. This time, the engine starts without hesitation, and the radio returns to its normal station, playing a familiar country song that brings a sense of comfort. As Jack drives away from the ranch, the first light of day breaks over the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape. He glances in the rearview mirror, watching as the ranch disappears into the distance, leaving behind only the memory of what happened. The story ends with Jack pulling onto the main road, the open highway stretching out before him. He knows he'll never forget the night he spent at the cursed ranch, but he also knows that he survived, that he broke the cycle and freed the trapped souls. As he continues his journey, Jack reflects on the experience, grateful to have escaped the malevolent forces that nearly claimed him. He drives on, the vast wilderness of Wyoming rolling out ahead of him, and the sun rising higher in the sky, signaling the start of a new day and a new chapter in his life.